You talked about three-step progression to being able to transact from an impression standpoint across platform. Walk through the 3 steps and maybe talk a little bit about what's going to stop us from doing this in a 1-year horizon.
Yeah. Well, I'm a simple guy, so I think there are 3 simple things that we could do just to improve our ability to harmonise the television and video ecosystem, and really bring a real ability to work across platforms and formats to simplify that whole business for us. So the 3 things I care about. The first is just a common framework for the translation, not even of the currency. It doesn't have to be the currency we trade in, but just how we measure, and a standardization across all these places that we target video back into impressions. If we can just say, let's come up with the agreed math and approach we're going to take an impression-based view of all video, and within that we're going to define how many impressions are we delivering against the currency? That might be an in-demo traded data to CPM, and how many are we delivering against the strategic audience that the advertiser has defined as the most relevant strategic audience for them, with more definition. That would be great. And then our ability within that to say, where do we think we've reached that audience, because we know we've only got index-based or probabilistic measurement, and where do we know we have? And to simply divide our impression loads into those things, that'd be great if we could simplify in that way. So that'd be step 1 for me.
When you think about integrating deterministic, I know someone was exposed with panel data, I think someone was exposed. Do you have any thought about how you actually bring those together? Because for us to be successful, those 2 have to live seamlessly tied together, correct?
Yeah, they do. And look, I do think it's just a simple agreement about math. It's like, if I'm targeting to the household, how many people does Nielsen or the set-top box, how many households does whoever is deciding the household measurement, how many households did they say are reached? What's the likely composition of that household, and what's based on an index the likelihood that the actual person we want and not the other members of the family we're watching? Let's just say, we're 60% probable, 60% likely that Howard, who's the person we wanted to reach in that household, saw that impression, even though we don't know precisely. So let's just agree some of those things. And I don't think it's complicated. It doesn't require a lot of technology. It's a simple agreement about a math-based kind of framework for translating things back to a common impression standard.
And is it your view that demographics have to be a part of this? Do you see a world where, and maybe it depends on the vertical, where household impressions, because you could actually count those across platform pretty easily? What's your view about that? Are demos important 5 years from now?
Well, it's not popular or cool to say that demos are important, but I don't mind them. The truth is, it's like, as long as I know how much I think I reach the audience that I care most about, I don't care if on top of that we have a household number or a demo number. For a long time it worked perfectly well as a proxy, and especially when you're talking about the value of television, not in targeting, but the value of television as a mass reach visual. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just as long as we can also understand the more relevant currency of audience defined by the customer, the client. If we can do those 2 things together, and then over time the publisher might get more and more willing to guarantee or trade on the currency of the audience. But in the meantime, it doesn't really matter as long as we've got an ability to translate that thing, and so we can do the math and really understand how many of them we're reaching.
Great. So one last question. There's obviously growth in potential walled gardens. Xandr could be a walled garden. NCC may be behave like a walled garden. What's your vision of the role that a Nielsen or a ComScore plays in your future, helping you to achieve the vision you've painted?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I'll say is that, in my opinion, anybody that operates in the traditional television ecosystem that behaves like a walled garden, in my opinion, is making a mistake. It's creating a bigger problem, and it's thinking that TV provider, a TV network B is the competition to TV network A, but in truth, it's not. They're really competing with Google and Facebook for spend, and so if I wanted to win that battle and I operated in the TV ecosystem, I would take the rising tide lifts all boats attitude and say we will normalise and standardise the way we do this in the TV ecosystem because we think that's good for our industry, and I will win disproportionately if I own those TV assets by operating that way. I think that's the path. That's the path forward. We don't control what they're going to do. We're going to do everything we can from the seat we have in Group M to try and drive some of those standards, because if they create a situation where data is going in but not coming back out, and again, I don't mind if they have all their own proprietary data assets and technology assets, as long as the data can come in and out so we can get to a better understanding of how we build building reach and frequency across those audiences, across the TV providers. That to me is essential to underpinning the kind of the future health of the TV ecosystem.